So welcome to another Get Found with Found webinar. I'm really excited to have Ashley Ward here from SEMrush, and today we're going to be talking about SEO and Content Marketing 101. So Ashley, Found Digital, where we come from, we're a part of the Yellow Group, and we're really passionate and proud about our, not just the platforms that we own, but also the partners and the tools that we use to help businesses be successful with digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You're a digital marketing strategist that's focused on long-term ROI, and SEMrush is one of our premium partners that we work with to make sure that we're helping guide with real data. So do you want to talk a little bit about what is SEMrush?
Certainly. So SEMrush is really an all-in-one suite of tools for digital marketers, for businesses, between the mom and pop shop to the corporate company. We have tons of Fortune 500 clients, as well as a lot of smaller mom and pop shops who use us. And you can cover everything from your SEO to your content to your PPC data. It's vast what you can cover with SEMrush to really monitor your brand online and make a difference. We have 5.3 billion keywords and counting. We have customers in 190 countries, almost at 3 billion customers and counting, so that's very exciting. And databases that have content and data for countries all over the world. We even have a database specifically for Australia, so it's regional and relevant.
We were very excited to see the Australian flag on the database, which means that we can just look at our own data, and we're going to talk about a lot of the data and the different types of data that sit within SEMrush, and also how it's more than just SEM. It's about the entire consumer journey on search. But before we do, let's watch a quick video about some of the latest search trends.
Hello and welcome to SEMrush Data News. I'm your host, Hunter Kaywood, and this is the show where we dive into the data and talk about the trends that matter. And so on today's episode, we thought it'd be interesting to dive into and see what people in the United States are searching for most. And not surprisingly, the three most popular search terms were Facebook, Google, and YouTube. But if we got a little bit deeper, a little more narrow, we'd find that by state, for example, Washingtonians are searching for Amazon. The Deep South is searching for weather. And all the while, Texans, Oklahomans, and other folks in the Midwest are searching most for Pornhub. And if we talk about the most expensive keywords for advertising, that's another situation altogether. The most expensive keyword was detected in Kansas, of all places, and is business phone with a price of $1,498 per click. Then there's Pennsylvania with best mesothelioma lawyers at $786. Texas and Indiana have two keywords with prices around $650, truck accident attorney and auto accident lawyer. Utah's highest keyword rate is also related to auto accidents, and it's accidents lawyers near me.
Fantastic. So to frame up the current landscape, you've got voice, you've got bots, you've got mobile. What's happening out there, and how does that really set the scene for SEO and content marketing?
A lot is happening there, and it's really making a huge difference in how we actually do SEO and content marketing, because we don't just have desktop users anymore. We have mobile users, and by the end of this year, it's projected that 79% of internet users are going to be using searches on their mobile devices. That's huge. That's almost 100%.
We only just got used to the mindset of it being more than 50%. And
Yes.
we're already thinking by the end of this year it's going to be 79%. It is huge. The devices that are changing too, I suppose, are revolutionizing the way we search.
Yes, very much so. They're accommodating the on-the-go mindset. And we're getting better as users using those devices and knowing how to search properly, using shortcuts for searches, such as talking into your phone, or even if you're on desktop, going and looking at, okay, I only want search results for the past 3 months or for the past year. So not only is our technology getting better, but searchers are getting better at searching for things.
I think there might be some expectations changing of those searches as well as
Yes.
they become more comfortable.
Yes.
So let's have a look at that. We're going to go through a few of the tools today, but before we go through the tools, let's first talk about the transition of content. And when I think back at the start of web, it was very much text, and that's transitioned over the time. So let's talk about what the behavior change is.
The behaviors changed quite dramatically. What used to just be text then became, okay, we need images with everything. Then it became, now we need video with everything. Now we need to do video live and Facebook Live and things like that. So content's really changed, but what we've noticed is, though it's changed dramatically because of technology, what's working the best is when we actually humanize such content. And it's so interesting because we have to still create content for bots. We still have to do SEO. We still have to think of the search engine when I mean bots and technology. But what's really converting is when we think humans and bots. And an example of this is a couple years ago when I was doing Facebook ads for the social media agency that I had. I was stuck on this one client. It was a luxury moving company in New York City. So very, very niche demographic, very hyper local. And I tried just about everything. I got the targeting right, the images were great, the videos were doing good, but there was something about the ad copy that just wasn't converting the users to where we wanted them to go.
I think we have an example. Let's bring that up on screen. Is this the post?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is
talk us through
the
content
post.
here.
So I reached out to another advertising company that just specializes in writing ad copy, and I said, you know what? I'm stuck. It was ad zombies. I'm like, I'm completely stuck. What would you guys do with this client? Do you have any ad copy ideas? And they came back to me 2 days later with this copy. And I couldn't believe how simple it was and how much it made sense. It starts out with, remember the early days, we invite some friends over, we would rent a truck or borrow a truck, get pizza, grab some beers, and it was as simple as that. Now things have changed. So what it did is it took the user through this emotional path, and it gave them nostalgia, remembering where they came from, because this was a very specific demographic who had a lot of money, who had a rags to riches story, who has a lot of art and fine furniture that they want to move. So you don't just call your buddies up, and you can't just choose any moving company. It has to be very specific. But this ad converted unlike any other ad I've ever done. And it was so simple because it took the human and emotional element into the ad copy. And it wasn't necessarily what image it was or if we would have thrown a video in there, but it was allowing the user to actually reflect and relate to the ad.
And I think they're going to be more likely to act then. Yes. From the video we watched earlier, we saw some pretty expensive keywords out there. And I'm looking at this content here and I can still see the important keywords are still in there. So it's really about a mix. So when we look at storytelling, it hasn't changed, but the way we use data to find what text to put in our content has changed. So we're familiar and we're all comfortable with the term, marketers across the world, content is king, but we're now transitioning to distribution is queen. I'm not too sure when this quote actually first started, but and she's wearing the pants, so we've just trumped it. Let's look at distribution, because I think that's one of the big keys here is how do you get this content out, and what are some of the gaps between the different distribution channels?
Certainly. So it's one thing to create a fantastic piece of content. We are at a point to where most anyone can create a great piece of content. We have enough data, we can figure this out, what our demographic actually wants. But if we don't distribute it correctly, it's just going to sit in the cyber world. There's so much content to digest. And so it really gets broken down into 3 main channels. You have your paid, your owned, and your earned. And between that, any business can distribute their channel properly. I mean, on the owned, this is your internal. So this is your own website, this is your own blog, your own email marketing. These are your channels. And then you have your earned. This is more of the PR, the backlinks, influencers, working with influencers to share your content. And then you have your paid resources, so your social ads, your PPC. So in between all of those, whether you have a huge budget, medium size, or no budget at all, you can still distribute through owned and earned, but you need to test all the distribution methods to see what works with your demographic, because it's going to work completely different from
it's a really good
person
point.
A to B.
Moving on to content though, there's so much of it. Like we hear that we need to do more. We now hear that the queen is wearing the pants. I hear from marketers and I hear from business owners often, our industry is boring, or we don't have enough budget to get the extra content, or I don't want to be in the content. How do you make content a little bit easier for businesses? Because does it really need to be that hard?
It doesn't necessarily need to be that hard. And lots of times we already have the resources right in front of us. We already have what we need, and we know what our customers want. When it comes to creating content and really doing anything online, there's only two things you should be focusing on, and that's to inform or entertain. And most of what we've already created can actually be doing that. We can actually already be informing people with the content that we have or entertaining them. So why not reuse the existing content that we already have, give it a facelift, make it fresh, give it an update to the times, especially if you have a how-to or a listicle type of article. There's a lot that we can do to just give content a nice little facelift to something that we already have.
So the inform, and there's always stuff to learn, and we do get good feedback listening to calls and such. The entertain seems like so much fun. I can see how that generates attention.
Yes.
The things like listicles and stuff, what is a listicle for those who don't know?
So a listicle is the type of content like top 25 restaurants in Melbourne to go to in 2019, or top 10 cars to do this, or top 25 ways to get your customers to do this. So it's literally providing a list, so it's more of a resource type of post, and those are fantastic examples of republishing content. And so there's a big difference between recycling and republishing content when you're looking at reusing. Republishing is that literal idea of a facelift. It's taking that top 25 restaurants in Melbourne in 2017 article that you wrote and literally just republishing it, going and updating it, and adding top 35 for top 27, something restaurants go to in Melbourne in 2018, making it relevant. Whereas recycling is taking that original idea of content, that listicle blog post that you had, and making it a video. So you're now, instead of just making it text, you're now taking that original topic that you had and all of the content. This is not coming up with brand new storyboards or anything like that. It's taking what you already have, but making it into a new content form. This could be infographic, a case study, video, audio, lots of different varieties.
So let's step this through in one of probably a more complex. Let's say we've got a listicle, we want to create our own. So it could be based on the top questions that your customers ask you about your product, or the top 5 products that you've sold over your busiest period. That's all good and well, and that's interesting. You have a couple of rules around republishing. One of them is around don't republish all of your content. Why is that a rule?
Because it's not going to excite the user. So if you're constantly making a facelift to all of the content that you produce, why should I really read your first draft? Why are you going to get any traction around the first draft? You want to take the content that's performing well and really kind of run through a full audit and see what worked really good, what didn't work, and 50-50 that. Take maybe 5 to 10 of what worked really well for the past year and what didn't work really well for the past year, and update those to see if you can improve them even more, and then get the data from that.
So look at the top performing pieces of content, take a segment of that, republish that once you've made your tweaks. That sounds like a very logical and a way to optimize content really well. Another rule you mentioned really clearly is about don't change the URL. Why is that so important?
So it's not necessarily that you can't change the URL, but we're humans and we make quite a bit of mistakes. So as a rule of thumb, I recommend if you're going to republish, which is updating existing content, to not touch the URL, because that URL, that piece of content, you've linked to it over time on a bunch of social media posts, you have backlinks, you have influencers who are linking to it. It's basically being linked to all over the cyberweb, especially if you did good content, you're getting lots of links. Unless you go and inform everyone or update all of the URLs, you are now going to have broken links pointing to your website, because so often we may have our list of, okay, here's everywhere where that URL is, and we may forget a couple of places that we wanted to update, especially on social media posts. We forget this so often. and then you have broken links pointing to the website, then people are going to bounce right off. So I just
Goes
recommend
from being a positive thing to a negative SEO thing straight away.
Yes,
Makes
just
perfect
don't
sense.
update your URL unless you're a perfect human being, and we'll remember all the places to do so.
So key tips about the republishing content is take the best,
Yes.
give it the tweak, put it out in different places in the different parts of the distribution channels that we spoke about. Link back to your website so you get that one link with the end content always being fixed and not changing. Make sure, I suppose, if you've got CMSs, which most people have these days, sometimes there's dynamic links, so you want to make sure that they're fixed links, optimized from keywords. From the recycling content point of view, you made a point earlier on when we were speaking about Facebook videos and Facebook Live being videos. I look at the list on the screen, I think audio posts, podcasts, equipment, gear, effort, creative teams, expense. But you made a really good point about Facebook Live. It can be simple, yeah?
It can be so simple. So simple. I think the two biggest fears that businesses have when it comes to video and what really gives them resistance is, one, no one wants to be in front of the camera.
Yep.
They really don't. CEOs are terrified to do it. Employees don't want to do it. It's very hard to find people who are actually comfortable with being in front of the camera that you don't have to pay for. And the second is this myth that you have to have an entire production crew. You don't anymore. Yes, it makes a big difference, and it's very helpful to have that, but it's not a standard across the board. You're not looked upon negatively. There's so many successes of people literally just holding their phone with their hands shaky and going live. But it's the content that they're giving the users that are watching on Facebook during that Facebook Live. That's what people are after. The shaky phone, the maybe terrible background as they're walking down a boardwalk or something like that. People look past that when you're delivering the content that they want. But if you're not going to deliver the content that they want, if you're not going to put in the research, if you're not going to stick to your brand's roots and have a synonymous message in all of the content that you produce, then people are going to notice that boardwalk, that shaky hand, and they're going to start to judge you based on that and expect that you need a full setup.
So come back and think to what can you do to entertain your customer base or educate them about what you do. It really, that's where you should be focusing on the content, but use some of the tools like Facebook Live. You can also download it and upload it to YouTube as well, so it's multi-purpose. So there's some great ideas there about content. Moving on to content types. Not all content is aligned the way it should be. So let's have a quick talk about aligning the right type of content to the goal.
Certainly. So certain types of content are going to get you to certain goals a whole lot faster. And what I mean by that is, when we're making a new piece of content, we shouldn't be making it because we're told to and it's something on our sticky note or on our to-do list as a checklist.
Snapchat video.
Exactly. We should be making it because we want to make that Snapchat video because we want users to make a certain interaction, or we want to make a new piece of blog post that features a specific keyword because we want to start ranking for this new keyword. You have to have a very, very specific primary and then supporting goals for every piece of content that you produce. And you need to have that mindset before you even start producing the content. And that's because certain content is going to help you achieve certain goals a lot faster. So, for example, if you want to increase your website traffic, there's a variety of content that's going to get you there a lot faster than other types of content. If you want to work on customer education, things like email newsletters that provide resources and case studies of your products, that's going to help you get there a lot faster than say a social media post would. Doing how-to and tutorial videos, that's going to get you there faster. So when you're trying to figure out what content to create, sure, that's a great question to ask, but what you should really be asking is, what do I want to achieve by creating a new piece of content first? And then what kind of content should you create will answer.
The best fit. And of course, these things can be tracked through your Google Analytics, your event tracking, so get those conversion metrics in place as well for it. So many tools. I just mentioned another tool. We're here to hear about SEMrush and the tools that it has. When I first started using SEMrush, there weren't as many tools, but today, looking at this slide, there are heaps. So what and why has that evolution occurred?
It's occurred because of our users. We've seen a repeating pattern that we need to be more than just an SEO tool. We need to be more than just data. We're going to be the best SEO and data tool out there, but we want to be more than that for our users. We want to be that one-stop shop to where whether you're an agency and you have dozens and dozens of clients that you're trying to manage a bunch of projects for, or you're in-house and you're trying to be aware of anything and everything that has to do with your business online, you need to be able to do that in a central place. So we want to provide a central place for you to do that, and we want to do that through SEMrush.
Perfect. So we're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we're going to have a look at some of my favorite tools, and Ashley will talk us through how to use them, which will be really exciting.
Excel planner friend meetings.
Singlets, because I'm going to Bali next month.
Cryptocurrency.
A restaurant. We got like food.
Baby quotes.
Contact number for Burma Lane restaurant.
A car.
YouTube.
Beds.
Ferntree Gully Station.
The latest near yoga classes near me.
A link to some mag wheels on Gumtree.
Catboarding, Melbourne.
Liverpool results.
Fortnite.
City Chic.
Gmail.
Phil Collins tickets.
LinkedIn.
Because everyone has busy schedules in their lives and I want to catch up with my friends properly, so I want to look for a software that has a similar structure to like Excel.
Because I did a whole bunch before and I couldn't find the one that I wanted.
Because it's a broad search and I wanted to get an insight, more importantly understand the market today, but really I wanted to see how much money I've lost.
Because I guessed that Google was going to come up with what I needed.
To see if there were any delays.
Because I wanted to know if they weren't or not.
Because I was too lazy to type in gmail.com.
Because I didn't know what website they were actually purchasable from.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I absolutely did. I lost a lot of money.
I did. Yep.
I did.
I sure did.
I did.
Yes.
Yep.
Sadly, yes.
No.
If there's no Google,
I'd probably hide under a rock and cry.
Probably social media.
Straight on the website.
Would have had to have gone to the website rather than Googling.
Gumtree app.
So what I did was I moved from there and I went to the Yellow Pages app.
Go to Yellow Pages.
Wow, so there's some pretty funny and interesting insights about people's perception of their own behaviour with search, and we're into the business end now. Let's look at these tools and look at how they can actually work for your business. So these are the SEO tools. So let's first look at my favourite, not just because it's got a cool name, the Keyword Magic tool. It sounds so easy, it's got so much data there. What's its primary purpose? Let's start there.
So its primary purpose is to solve anything and everything that you need to do with keyword research. This is on an international, regional level. This is even content ideas, SEO ideas. You can go in here and you can really get everything you need. You can even get competitor score. You can look at what your competitors are doing. You can look at what the clicks are. You can hide negatives. You can exclude things. There's so much you can do inside the Keyword Magic tool, which I think the emphasis on the magic is you get to do anything and everything for your keywords inside of here. You can even make your own projects. It's dramatic, the amount of things.
So it's got a good name, but it also is probably one of the most important tools to start using. It's only new.
Yes.
And it all starts with the seed or the main top level keyword or idea that you want to investigate. And what I've put here is garage doors. Some of the metrics there that jump out that we know we use a lot are, we look always straight for the volume of the search volume.
Yes.
Sometimes we look at competition, specifically because you want to make sure that you're able to be effective in the execution. But the thing that jumps out to me more so than anything is just the simplicity of the negative keywords bit on the left, and that's about removing bits from the database. When we look at types of negative keywords and why you would remove them from the database, how does that make it easier?
It makes it a lot easier because it allows you to focus in on what the user actually wants and what the user is searching for, and also to give you very specific keywords that you can actually utilize and play with. So when you take away all of the negatives, you're getting closer to the gold, so much to say. And what I really like doing inside of here is the SERP option all the way to the right. When you're going through, and one of the things by excluding the negatives, as you get closer and closer to narrowing in actual keyword ideas for a specific topic or for a client and whatnot, you can click from here and actually see what the SERP results are for that keyword and for those different terms. And that's so good, because I think when we're looking at data like this, and there's so much data in there, it's important to actually step into the user journey as well and see what it looks like in the SERP results, so then you get both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, so it shows you a visual of what actually it found to put in the database, and then you can also look at any of those other metrics, like what position it was seen in, and also how much search volume and cost that applies if you were to have to pay for that. The next tool that I wanted to talk about is more of a story. We're pretty happy that just recently we've got our second database in Australia, which is the mobile database. And I cracked up when you told me this story. What we're looking at here is the difference between search terms on desktop and mobile. So do you want to take us through this BuzzFeed example?
Yes, certainly. So I've really been trying to put a lot of thought into how we can create content for mobile, because that's where everything's heading. We have to create content that is mobile friendly. And I don't just mean text size and loading in under 2 seconds. Like, yes, we have to do that. But what else does it mean? So I decided let's look into SEMrush. Let's look at the keyword positions for BuzzFeed. So what are people searching for when they're going to BuzzFeed? And the top 5 results on desktop made sense. There you have the first 2 branded terms. You have quiz, air fryer, and food. Lots of times for BuzzFeed, you're looking up recipes, you're doing quizzes, like what Game of Thrones character are you, things like that on your desktop. And then I looked at the mobile version.
So I'll bring that up now, bit of a difference.
Yes, really interesting here. So you have the branded term first, which of course that's gonna stick. Then you have Nicki Minaj, celebrity, singer, you're looking for the music, makes sense. Quizzes, because you're still doing quizzes on the go. And then Yo Mama jokes and Would You Rather. And it just blew my mind. I mean, of course, first it's hilarious, but if you look at all of these keywords, they're action items. They're things that you need immediately answers to. I mean, a Yo Mama joke could be a life or death situation. You need that joke right away in order to give it up. Yeah. And same with the Would You Rather, the quizzes, Nicki Minaj, you're looking for either a news article that you just heard, a headline, something happened with Nicki Minaj, or you're looking for a song for her. BuzzFeed, it's branded term, you're looking to go directly to there. So when we're thinking about making content, and when we're thinking about making SEO-friendly content, really optimized content, on mobile devices, you have to ask yourself, is this content going to provide a fast and actionable solution for people? Because that's where we're going with content.
And the fact that now we can see the mobile terms as well as the desktop terms, even for ad copy for SEM, it's really important to get those insights, so definitely encourage people to start looking at the two independently. Yes. So Ashley, this is it would be remiss of me not to put in an example from one of our happy customers, of course, and one of the things that I really like about this customer example is this is a family-owned 3-generational business. They're experts in water pumps, but they're not experts in SEO. They came to us because they didn't organically rank anywhere, and leveraging things like the SEMrush database, we were able to make some changes to their organic presence, which improved the result, and that was by pulling out some of the data. So what sort of advice would you have for a business that is wanting to get that overarching understanding of where to go next with SEO?
Well, first, I would definitely run through a site audit. Go inside of SEMrush and really do an in-depth site audit. We're going to give you recommendations on 2 of the biggest things, and that's mobile and AMP. You're going to find out, are you optimized on mobile, which you have to be. You absolutely have to be thinking mobile first in everything right now. And so by going through the site audit, you're going to get recommendations for that on how you can better optimize that. And then the second would really be focusing on the questions, because voice search is the next biggest thing. It's where we're at because of mobile, because mobile's taking over. So really make sure that your website is optimized for mobile. It's loading fast. We're going to give you a ton of recommendations and strategy ideas on how you can better optimize your site if you're not there yet, or even if you are there, how you can take it a step further. And then thinking the content as well with the questions on how can you start doing those BuzzFeed examples and creating those keyword content.
Well, I think that's a really good example in this instance too, because yes, of course, you can see on the screen that we did link acquisition, so we looked and researched what links would be beneficial, what links exist, what links could exist from the tool. And we also did the standard SEO. You've got to do your on-site, you've got to check your tech, you've got to make sure that the site's configured to be fast and responsive, etc. But the favorite thing I have about this particular example is when we look at where most of the traffic came from, and you can see it on screen, it's come from a page which is linked from questions and problems. So house water pump problems, pressure tank water pump problems. It was really about getting in the mind of the consumer and thinking, they're not wanting to buy a new water pump yet, they're just trying to work out why theirs is not working. And so as soon as that was part of the strategy, then you can see that that content was really important. When they were then doing that research phase, they were already exposed to the brand, so that when they went to make that decision, the brand was already ahead of all of the other competitors. Even if they'd gone and done another search and we picked them up from the other keywords, you still have that double-edged advantage. So that's a really good example. And you can see with the SEMrush tool, it's really simple to look at the organic traffic from the outside in, and then you can match that with your analytics data and your event tracking when you look at what are the different pieces of content on your website that people are actually engaging with when they get to the site. So I'd love to end this webinar with a cute dog and talk a little bit about the future of search. This example here, it is right here now, but it's not quite here. So do you want to talk us a bit about what Amazon's doing with these skills?
Yes, so Amazon is basically using Amazon skills as a way to capitalize on the idea of voice search. So we're already asking it questions. Why not work with brands to provide the solutions through Amazon, through Alexa? And what they're doing here is they're working with brands, both big and small. There's a lot of small players in this space who are on top of their game because they saw big brands doing this and they're catching up to it before a lot of others are doing it. And they're basically providing an opportunity for a big brand to connect with the user through Amazon. So Amazon allows itself to just be the middle ground, the middleman platform, and gives the brand the opportunity to answer the questions that people are already asking. And when this example with Ask Purina, you know that you can ask a brand like Purina, a dog and cat food brand, a question about pets, and they're most likely going to have an accurate answer. It's kind of like going to WebMD and asking, am I going to die from my fever? Not so much of an accurate answer, but Purina is going to give you a much more accurate answer because they have the brand authority already. So if you can find ways to capitalize on new trending patterns like this, just because a big brand is doing it doesn't mean a smaller, medium-sized brand can't jump on it too. I highly recommend when you start to see patterns like this, because over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see content change drastically. Voice search is just the beginning of where we're going with content. And as we start to play with these new different ways of creating content to provide solutions and to entertain people, jump on all of them to see what works for your demographic, because everything is going to be a little bit different for everyone. But if you don't try and if you wait to see what happens to everyone first, you're already going to be behind the schedule.
Yeah. So now's the time for you to start the journey, because these questions and the techniques that are being done with the skills is exactly the same as what we started with, where think about how you can entertain and inform your customer base. Yes. Think about the questions and the words that you need to start putting into your content by telling the story that resonates with their needs. But this is all SEO, so I suppose we're really wrapping up with SEO today is really about content marketing more so than the traditional SEO methods. So to end the day, let's just have a look at your top tips. So what would you recommend every business make sure they were doing today?
Certainly, so really focus on the idea of reusing your content. Use the resources that are already working, amplify what's already working, and look at the patterns, look at the data. Go inside of SEMrush and see what patterns you can come up with in terms of what your audience already likes, and just amplify those assets. You do not always need to start from scratch. And then also define what metrics matter most to you. Just because Purina is doing something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to produce the same results for you, but that may be okay because you may be after and needing different results than a brand like Purina is. So define your metrics first before you start producing your content. And then finally, use tools, get expert advice, and leverage the data that you have to actually support your decisions and your user journey.
Yeah. So thanks, Ashley, for coming in today, and thanks for sharing such valuable insights about the tools that are available. For everyone watching, we would love to come and have a conversation with you about your goals, because as Ashley mentioned, it starts with the goals, and we have a lot of really valuable tools that we can put in conjunction with our expertise to help deliver them. So there's some actionable insights for today, some opportunities for tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.